Hi, everybody. It's me. We are live. Just waiting. Just that awkward waiting. Awkward waiting. Hello. Okay. Fertility Help Hub, you have to just, yep, there you go. Go live. Hi, guys. Yay. Hold on, we're coming up.
Hi.
Yay!
We made it work. How are you?
We made it work. And that wasn't that awkward. So many times I'm like, okay, and we're waiting.
I know. Tell me about it. I like that I'm not hosting today. I like being on the bottom of the screen.
You're a bottom.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm recovering from long COVID, so a bit up and down.
How are you doing? You look great.
Oh, thank you. Just the chest. The chest keeps coming back. It's really been hard. You've had COVID too, haven't you?
Yeah. So like the shortness of breath.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And really bad migraines too. So been in and out of bed for a month, basically.
Oh, gosh. Which, like, who has time for that? Like, who has time to be in and out of bed for a month?
I know. Tell me about it. But I'm excited to be chatting with you today.
I am too.
Yeah.
So for everyone who's tuning in who doesn't know, I'm Karen from Hilariously Infertile, and this is Eloise from Fertility Help Hub. And before we get into all the other nitty-gritty stuff, I would love for you to talk a little bit about this initiative that you've started and how people can get involved or possibly take part in it.
Totally. So after my own experience of infertility, or my husband's infertility, which we can talk about in a bit, I founded Fertility Help Hub about 18 months ago or 2 years ago to give people all of the resources and support and community that I wish that I'd had available at the time around the world. And then having seen the heartache, obviously, over the last year that COVID has been bringing on top of all of the really tricky difficulties of going through a fertility struggle as it is, I decided that it would be time to step things up and try and help the community. So contacted clinics that I have great relationships with and have secured 7 free rounds of IVF around the world, in Europe, the UK, to say that now, US, and also there's an opportunity for Canadians to, well, for everyone around the world, but there is also a location in Canada. So there are 7 free rounds of IVF, and also, because this is close to my heart, a sperm bank offering complementary sperm to help someone too. So 8 opportunities in total.
Wow, that's incredible. How did you get all these people on board to do this with you?
I think just everyone is feeling, the sense of distress and heartache. I did a survey recently on my community, and it showed that 100% of people are struggling mentally with infertility and COVID. 100% out of everyone that took the survey.
Yeah.
And then I should know these stats off by heart, but a huge number are being forced to go privately in the UK because of wait times. And I know that there's the financial burden for people with insurance and things like that in the US too. So collectively, there's just this real difficulty at the moment, and people want to pursue having their family that they deserve and dream of. And so the feeling was, if we could club together and unify and help, then it's a shame that we can't help more people, but brilliant that we can help those that we can. So the people will be selected at random, because no story is more deserving than another, on after the 10th of March. So applications need to go in before the 10th of March, and you can go to Fertility Help Hub, follow, there's lots of updates, and also link through to the website fertilityhelphub.com, and you'll see it all there. You can find out more information, see the clinics and the sperm bank involved. They all have their own T's and C's in terms of what the cycle includes, because obviously the list could go on and on, so they detail that. And because of COVID and people's, obviously, travel is disrupted at the moment, so that's been taken into consideration, so people shouldn't worry about that, because that's all been written into it as well.
Wow, that is incredible. March 10th. There's a lot going on March 10th. Another foundation that I work with, their applications are also due March 10th. So big day. Yeah, big day. And it's just a good, it's actually really convenient that you guys both have everything on the same time. I do have to say, I just want people who are listening at home, and for you too, there are people doing a little bit of construction right above me. So if you hear like banging or anything, that's what that is. So I apologize.
I've also realized I'm in a different room in the house today than I normally am.
You are.
And it's so dark. It's so dark in here. It's like light in here, but not on the camera. So sorry.
It's no worries at all. So, tell me a little bit about your infertility journey or struggle.
Yeah. So it started in 2015. My husband and I hadn't actually been trying for that long, naturally. But I am a massive worrier, and I just always had the sense that something would be wrong. I don't know why. And a lot of people say that, don't they? They just have this feeling. So as the months rolled on and nothing was happening, and I was thinking that it was something to do with me and being on birth control for many years and things like that, I sort of forced him into going to get a fertility MOT done privately, because with the NHS in the UK, you have to have been trying for a year if you're under 35, which we were at the time, and it's 6 months over. So I just thought, why don't we just pay and go and see what's going on? So we bit the bullet and did that. And I remember the day so well. Literally went into the clinic before work, and I had quite a stressful job. We had to go in at different times because when they wanted the semen analysis done was lunchtime, and I had to go in before work for my scan, and we knew nothing about our fertile health. And so I went in on my own, and they did the scan and blood test probably. I can't remember, it was a while ago. And they said, you know, on the scan, everything looks okay for your age. They weren't like, wow, this is amazing. But they said, you know, it looks okay. We can't see any issues. So I remember leaving and just like hopping to work thinking, it's good. But then I started to think, but then if there isn't anything, why has it not happened yet? And but I did think, well, you know, maybe we might need to pursue IVF. I'm sure my husband's fine. He's getting checked today. I was still really, really positive at this point. My husband goes in and he doesn't call me, and I knew that he'd already had his test. So I was at my desk, and I think I was texting him like, what's going on? He was like, no results, no results. And then he calls me and he just says, I've got no sperm.
No sperm?
None. Zero. I'm like, I don't even understand what that means. I can't. Sorry, I can't process that. How can you not?
Right.
He was like, I don't know. I've been given no answers. So I literally had to run out of work because I was shaking and an emotional wreck. And then we just had some wine, cried. My father-in-law came over. It was all very, very emotional. My family were on holiday. My husband didn't really want us to tell anyone at this point because he wanted to wait until he knew what the reason was before we started to talk to family and people about it. So I had to be really sensitive about that, whilst also kind of needing a support network around me, which is really hard.
That's tricky.
Which so many people must go through as a couple, you know, one person wanting to do something or say something and another person having a different opinion. Anyway, long story short, months of blood tests revealed that he has a genetic condition, which means that he has an extra chromosome. So he has lower testosterone. He doesn't produce sperm.
Wow.
So we went to the States due to success rates, and we went to New York, and he had the micro-TZ sperm retrieval, which he spent a while preparing for, and I was injecting him with female drugs to try and help stimulate, obviously all under the doctors, to try and stimulate sperm. And it was a 5-hour operation, and sadly it didn't work. So we had donor sperm ready to go in case that was what happened. And so we went down that route the next day.
Wow.
So I had eggs retrieved the next day. So we didn't actually even really have a chance to talk about it again. Obviously we had talked about it, but he was recovering in the hotel in a lot of pain, and I was stimulated and ready to have my egg retrieval the next morning. And we just knew that we wanted to have children. This was our opportunity, which we both agreed would be something that we'd both be happy to do. And so we went for it, and then that first round failed. So then we'd gone to the States, I'd gone through all of this. My husband was in pieces, recovering from his surgery, and very disappointed it hadn't worked. And then the negative test came, and I remember it was Easter Sunday, and just being like hot flushes, crying, couldn't understand why, thinking, right, there's something wrong with me.
I'm sorry to interrupt your story. When you found out that it failed, were you still in New York, or were you back in England?
No, back.
Okay.
So I did the 2-week wait back in England.
Right. That's what I was wondering. Like, where did you do that? Did you do it there? Did you do it? Okay.
Which was really strange for my specialist and team, because obviously normally they find out the result before you, because you go in for a blood test there, but I had to go remotely in London and then send them the results. So I then spent the next couple of months just trying to work out, what's wrong with me? So I went and did various things just holistically to help myself out, because I'd just gone straight into IVF with no prep mentally at all. And this time I started to like just eat a bit more healthily and run a bit, and I saw a counselor and just things like that, and I saw an acupuncturist, things that aren't necessarily guaranteed to get you pregnant at all, but help me with my frame of mind.
Right. And like their overall general wellness.
Exactly.
Right.
And sometimes speaking, I don't know what you found, but sometimes speaking to someone who you don't know, who isn't a friend or family, is easier than speaking to your nearest and dearest. So then we went back to the States 3 months later, I think, and we were actually lucky that it worked that time with a frozen embryo. So we had 2 embryos transferred frozen and 1 took, and that gave us our daughter.
Okay.
And then we went back under a year later to try for a sibling, and it worked fresh with 2 embryos. So we had twins.
Wow.
So we're very, very fortunate, but now we're navigating the donor conception journey and route and talking to the kids. And it's amazing to be in this space doing what I'm doing, because so many people who are thinking about donor conception or in the middle of doing it can ask questions to someone who has experienced it firsthand.
Right. So, how old are your kids now?
Our eldest daughter is 3, about to turn 4, and the twins are 2. So there's 19 months between them.
Wow. And do you have books? Like, how do you talk to them about their donor sperm?
Yeah, so we do have a couple of books. I need to fish a couple more of them out, because there's just one that's just read all the time and they love it. And I noticed that we've talked so much to our eldest about it, because she is older. We haven't really focused on the twins as much, because they're not as advanced as she is yet.
Right.
So I'm really now trying to focus on having those same conversations with them, so that it's becoming a bit more natural, so that it's not like sitting them down one day and saying, this is the story. I just weave it in at odd occasions, and just say, Mommy and Daddy wanted to have a baby like you so much, and we couldn't. And this is what we had to do, and just try and explain it in really simple terms. And there was a really kind man in America, and and the kids have met my specialist, so it's lovely that they can now put a face and a name to the story.
And is it all the same sperm donor?
Yes,
it is. Okay, so there's that running common amongst the 3. That's interesting.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I've said a lot in the space. Who knows what they're going to do when they're 18? So we picked an open donor. They can track him down, or half siblings if they want to. And 3 of them, they all do have different personalities. So no doubt some will want to do something. Some might want to be in touch with him or half siblings, and the others might not, or vice versa. Right. It's just impossible to know. But then how do you know that about your full biological children in terms of what they're going to want when they're 18 either?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So tell me a bit more about your story.
Okay, so my story is a little bit less, I feel like, eventful. I have PCOS, which stands for polycystic ovarian syndrome, but I didn't know that I had PCOS. Like, I never knew. My husband and I, got married. We were just married for a few years, and then we started trying to get pregnant. And every single month, I was not getting my period. Like, we were having unprotected sex. I wasn't getting my period, but I also was getting all these negative pregnancy test results. And I didn't even understand what was happening. Like, I didn't even know about like day 14 of your cycle. Like, you're supposed to ovulate. Like, I had no idea. Which I was like, it's just so interesting what you're not taught, like in America, about like your own body or in sex eggs. I was like, in 7th grade, they said, if you have unprotected sex and you don't get your period, you're pregnant. Like, that's what I was taught.
Yeah.
And it's
just one
like,
time.
Yeah. And like, it's just not true, necessarily. So after about like 6 months of trying on our own, I started being like, I think something's wrong, because I was starting to calendar and map out my cycles, and I was like, I'm getting my period like every 4 months, maybe, like, this isn't normal. I was doing the ovulation kits, and like the little smiley face would like smile at me, but it was wrong every single time, and I was like, stop smiling at me. Like, it was just awful. So I went to my gynecologist, and we did a round of Clomid with her. Nothing happened. Another round of Clomid, nothing happened. And she said, after the second round of Clomid, she was like, I think that you have PCOS, but I want you to go to the fertility clinic down the street, which is NYU Fertility, which ended up being my clinic. And so, and it was like, I remember she left a voicemail on my cell phone, and it was a Friday at like 4:45. And she's like, and I'm out of the office for the rest of the weekend. Bye. So like, I got this voicemail and I was like, what? And like, didn't know what it meant. Didn't know anything. I was just like shattered. I remember going home. I Googled it, and all I could see was like infertile, infertility, trouble getting pregnant. And I was just a complete wreck. Like, it was as if my world completely shattered. I mean,
did you know anyone else with PCOS, or anyone else struggling at the time?
no, I didn't know anyone. I mean, I knew like my godfather and his wife like struggled, but I didn't know why. And I think I knew like one other person that I worked with that had gone through IVF, but it wasn't like, and this was, 9 years ago. This wasn't really talked about that much as it is now. I wasn't on social media. That's another thing. Like, I didn't have even a personal Facebook account. I still don't have a personal Facebook account, but I wasn't on social media. So like, I felt like I didn't have anyone, and I didn't know anything. So, and also just being a school teacher, like, I had devoted my life to children. You know what I mean? Like, literally every moment of my life since I was in high school, I've devoted to children. And I was just like, of course I'm going to be able to have kids. Like, I've devoted my whole life to children,
Yeah.
And then to get this, and I was teaching first grade at the time, dual language, Spanish and English. So we went to the clinic, and we went forward with an IUI. Clomid and IUI, because he was like, we could continue just with the Clomid, or we could do IVF, or do Clomid and IUI. So I was like, let's just go middle of the road, even though like mentally I was losing my mind. I was like, let's try to just be normal, I guess. So the first IUI, nothing happened. And the second IUI, it was actually kind of crazy. My sister was pregnant, and she called me at like 4:00 in the morning that morning. It was a Friday, or it was a Friday morning, and she called me at 4:00, maybe Thursday or Friday. And she called me and said, I'm in the hospital, I'm in labor. And she wasn't due for another 5 weeks. So I was like, and she lives in Chicago, which is not that close to here. So I was like, oh my goodness, like, I have to get out to you. I have to see you, but I have an IUI today. So I start Googling, like, can I fly after having an IUI? Like, I don't even know.
Oh, how stressful.
So I went, so I went to the IUI. I did the IUI. Like, I laid there for like 30 minutes, got in a cab, literally like ran through the airport, got to my sister, crying hysterically because like I'm getting text message updates that like I'm missing the birth. Like, my nephew's being born, and like I'm not there for my sister, which I always thought I would be. And I'm like crying and like running through the Chicago airport. I get to her, and it was like this great moment. And I was just like, well, that IUI is shot. Like, I'm sure it's shot. Like, there's no way that like all of this happened. And like, I was so stressed out. And that was the IUI that was my older daughter, Zoe.
No way.
Yeah. So
when you were
born.
going through, running through the airport and getting to your sister, were you thinking about your body and what you just, what you were hoping for, and all the things that they advise in terms of, not running and things like that? Or were you just kind of not even thinking about your fertility for that moment and trying to get to her?
I mean, I was thinking about it definitely, but in my mind, I was just kind of like, okay, like, this was shot. Like, it was shot. Like, this is just not going to happen. And, at the end of the day, my sister is more important. And like, that's kind of what I was thinking. Like, I just had to get to my sister, Oh, sorry, are you there?
Yeah. Have I frozen, or have you?
Did I freeze, or did you freeze?
You frozen on mine. It's better now.
Okay. Was I frozen? I'm like, oh, freeze, because that's what always happens to me.
I
like,
know.
I'm like, ah. So yeah.
It's so stressful. So when you got that positive, you must have been like, there's no way.
Oh, I was totally shocked. And so my nephew, he ended up having to be in the NICU for like, I don't know, 16 days or something like that, because he was doing bradycardials, where like he was like stopping breathing every now and then because he was 5 weeks premature, and basically his brain and his lungs just weren't communicating. So I had to go back to New York to teach for a week, and then I actually coincidentally had like a February vacation. So I went back to Chicago for that break, and we were just in the NICU all week. And I remember my sister's like, don't you need to take a pregnancy test for that IUI from 2 weeks ago? And I was like, it's going to be negative, whatever, like, who cares? And then the next morning I took it, and it was positive. And it was the day before my 30th birthday also. So it was just like all these things. And then like my husband wasn't there. So I was like, I can't keep this secret. He flew out. And I told him, I was like, it worked. And for some reason, he's like, I knew it would. Like, he just like knew it. So it's kind of sweet that I always say that like Zoe was conceived, you know, on my nephew's birthday. So which I love that too. So
Yeah.
because they're really close.
Actually, to that point, and I know this sounds strange even thinking about this, but when I was in New York on the transfer for the time that resulted in our twins, my mother was supposed to fly out and be there to help because I had our daughter there too, and just for support because my husband had to go back to work. And there was a freak storm in New York. Do you remember that? In
Which
January
storm?
of 2018, it was like minus 20 something. It was absolutely freezing. And
Yes.
so because of weather, my husband got stuck and things like that. Anyway, my mum couldn't come out because my grandmother was sadly passing away.
Oh no.
And she died the day that the twins were conceived.
Oh wow.
So mum didn't come, but obviously, you know, I still had some support out there, and she needed to be with my granny, of course. And so yeah, with all these things, all these odds of the freak weather, the people coming and not being able to come, friends were coming and then couldn't come or got stuck in Philadelphia and other places, I just felt like luck wasn't going to be there that time. So I was very surprised, like you, when it was positive.
Yeah, sometimes you have this feeling, you're like, well, whatever, like this is just, it's doomed, like everything's gone wrong, and then you never, like you really never know. And I remember when people would, when I was pregnant, people would be like, oh, it's such a miracle, it's such a miracle, and I'd be like, yeah, whatever, because like I was like, this was science, like this wasn't really a miracle. But then like you think of like all the science that has to line up perfectly just to get that one thing, and you're like, maybe it is a little bit of a miracle, like I don't know, but it's just it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot to handle.
But talking about hilariously infertile and comments and things like that, having twins, the amount of people who don't know our story and say things like, oh, I bet you didn't wish for that, and you know, how difficult and stuff like that. And you think, just people just don't know what they're saying because they don't know the journey that people have got to get to where they, you know, are. So it's really hard, isn't it? And so you've got another daughter, is that right?
Yes. So my second daughter was born. I did multiple rounds. I did like 5 rounds of IUI for her. The first one, nothing happened. So we just kind of bumped up, which was awful. Sorry for the banging. Because it was like 5 months of Clomid, which like for me just was really hard. More because I was like ate everything in sight. But finally, after the fifth failed IUI, I decided that I wanted to go forward with IVF. And I just thought if it was going to happen, it would have happened by now. And I had absolutely no data to back that up. I just felt like if my older one was worked after the second one, we've done like 4.5, 5 now, because the first one I didn't even ovulate. It would have worked by now, you know? So then I went forward with IVF, and we had 33 eggs retrieved, which was a lot.
Wow.
I was in so much pain, and I went to work the next day, and I could like barely walk. Like every step I took, I was like it was just pain shooting through my whole body. And someone's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I'm not okay." Like, and I always say like, if you have that many eggs retrieved, like don't go to work the next day. Like just don't. But like as a school teacher, I was like, I've taken off days for all these IUIs. I had another HSG that I took off for. I didn't feel like I could take, and then the retrieval surgery, and I didn't feel like I could take another day. So I was like, I'm gonna go to work. And like even my students were like, you're not good. I was like, I'm not good. I'm not good. But my 33 eggs turned into 17 day 5 blastocysts, and we put one in, and that was my daughter Abby, who was born also like completely in the amniotic sac, which I think we've talked about, but it's like really rare. But I didn't know. I like don't know. Like I like don't know things. Like I didn't know how rare that was.
Gosh, wow. And then tell me about Hilariously Infertile, how you set that up.
Okay, so Hilariously Infertile started. So same thing. Didn't have social media because I'm a school teacher. Like didn't really want my students to find me or my students' parents to find me. So I still don't have a personal Facebook account. And when I was on maternity leave with my second daughter, I was helping a friend and a family member through their infertility. And I was telling my husband this, and he was like, you should really write a book. And I was like, ha ha ha, it's hilarious. Like, I don't, like, I was like, I don't even read books. Like, I don't really have time to read that many books. Like, I'm not going to write a book. And he was like, I'm just saying, he's like, you can help people. And I think you're helping people. So maybe you should try to help people. And I was like, whatever. Then like a week or two later, I just one day during nap time, opened up my laptop and I just started writing. And I realized like, holy crap, like this is funny. And it was funny. And I was like, this is funny. And this is raw and snarky. And it's the way that real women talk with their friends. You know what I mean? Like if I go to a restaurant, when we could go to restaurants, like I would talk with my girlfriends about, it says, what's the book called? It's called Hilariously Infertile. It's a very original title.
And it's on Amazon, right?
It's on Amazon. You can get it on Amazon. Yeah. You can also get it on some other different websites, but yeah, so I started writing it. I was like, this is the way that real women talk when they're together. So not knowing anything and just being a fourth grade school teacher, I started like looking for publishers and literary agents. And I didn't know that you have to like basically be famous to like get a book published.
So did you self-publish it?
What'd you say?
Did you self-publish it?
So I self-published, but I waited. So what I did was, and I remember being like, but I think this book can really help people. And like, I don't want people to be struggling alone. And like, the issue is that if they're, if they're going through infertility, they're sitting alone in their closet and they're crying, just like I was, and just like so many people are, and, but then people kept being like, it's not a big enough market. So one of my friends, I talked to him and he was like, listen, you need to get on social media. And I was like, ew, no, I don't like social media. And he was like, you need to get on social media and you need to get a website. And that's what you need to do. So I remember in the beginning, I mean, I didn't know what a hashtag was. And this was almost 5 years ago. Hilariously Infertile started in like March, April of 2015. So, nope, 2016. So almost 5 years ago. So I learned what all that stuff was. My step niece helped me a little bit in the beginning so I could figure out, Brady, so I could figure out what a hashtag is. But yeah, so then I let Hilariously Infertile grow and I kind of sold the book. And then once Hilariously Infertile was big, then I released the book, and my goal was just to make back the money that it cost to self-publish and really just to help people, because this isn't like my full-time job. I mean, right now I'm off this year, but typically I'm a school teacher. So really this is just my way of helping people. Just like you said, like I didn't have this when I was around. Like I would have loved to have like someone who almost was like a funny girlfriend that I could be like, okay, she went through this and she found humor and it's okay. And yes, it's going to suck. And yeah, there are going to be failures and all that. But you know what? Like if I could make fun of it, then I own it. And that's kind of always been my philosophy. Like even if I have like a pimple or something, like I'll be the one to call out the pimple. Because then I own it. You know what I mean? Or if something's going on. So if I can own my infertility and make fun of it, then I own it and not it owns me, if that makes any sense. That's how I looked at it.
But also the gifts you put up and things like that and the lines with it, it's just like every time I see one, I'm like that, yes, that's like the nail on the head. And like things that people just don't necessarily say out loud, but everyone experiences or thinks at some point, and they feel like they maybe can't say.
Well, that's the thing. People are like, I thought I was crazy, like having all these thoughts and having all these, and I'm like, no, you're not crazy and you're not alone. Like literally everyone going through this feels the exact same way. I'm just the one who says it because I just happen to be the loudmouth New Yorker who says it. But yeah. So there's a question here for you. It says, can you please talk about your husband's feeling and fears to have your kids with a sperm donor?
Yeah, absolutely. Now I'm really sorry. I'm struggling. I'm coughing so much.
No, it's okay.
Sorry,
I know.
Basically, it's definitely been up and down. Took a while to get used to the idea. He was fully on board, but when the first cycle failed, I think that he was almost, it sounds awful to say relieved, but he'd just been through so much with the operation and being told that he was never going to have a child biologically. He hadn't had any time for it to sink in. So if that first test had been positive, I feel like, for our relationship and for everything that had just happened, obviously it would have been incredible, but I don't think he was at the stage I was at on test day he was still working through the grief. And then actually when we got the positive 3-4 months later, he was in a much better place than he had been back in that March. So it took time. He spoke to someone about it, I think online, but wasn't really that keen on speaking to a counsellor. We went to one counselling session together, and I just cried. This was in the UK before we went to the States. I just cried, and he walked out afterwards and just said, "That's not for me." And I was like, okay, well, that really helped me. And he's like, "But you just sat there and cried." And I was
You're
like,
yeah, but it was a safe cry.
Exactly. She understood.
So and he never knew that did his parents know that he had this chromosomal thing? Did his parents conceive him naturally? Or is that getting into too personal?
Yeah, they did. They've got 4 sons. He's the youngest. And it's a fluke thing that happens at conception. So he has this extra chromosome. It's called Klinefelter syndrome. And he now has lifelong implications with that. So he has to take testosterone replacement, and he's prone to some nasty diseases. So he has to have checkups and this testosterone replacement every 3 months, which has nasty side effects. And so, yeah, it sucked, having that diagnosis for the infertility, but also for just general health and concerns.
Well, yeah.
And then in terms of the kids, and using a sperm donor, he's absolutely obsessed with them and couldn't imagine them being anyone else. So he was less apprehensive in the second pregnancy than the first, because he could see our daughter. So it was less like a kind of, what are we imagining here? I mean, I was nervous during the about the pregnancy the first time round, because we'd seen the sperm donor as a child, like a childhood photo, but not adult. So I just didn't know what to expect.
Yeah. And when you're choosing sperm, did you choose like someone that had similar traits or similar background to your husband, or no?
We tried the best we could in terms of matching up his sarcasm, his personality, his likes, and looking at health and physical appearances as well. And education as well.
Yeah, education. Yeah, that's huge. And none of the other brothers have this at all either?
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good. It's just when I talk a lot, this happens.
I know.
I'm just in recovery mode, so sorry. No, they were all, one of them hasn't had children. He's single, and then his 2 other brothers have children.
So then to pivot back to Fertility Help Hub, like, when did you start that? Was it before your kids, during, after? Like, how did that happen, and how did that start, and how did it get so huge that now you're turning into a global initiative helping people all over the world?
Oh, thank you. So basically, when I used to work for a creative agency on different brands, and when my twins were 6 months old, I just thought, do you know what we've just been through is and was huge, and I've got so many friends who are now struggling, coming to me saying, "What do you think about this and this?" And I just thought I should use my creativity and my personal experience to bring those things together. And if it can help people, then that's amazing, because it would have really helped me. So using all of that, I started it when when my twins were 6 months old, so nearly 2 years ago. And it's just grown from there. And I left my job to do it full time.
Yeah. So your story of starting it and my story of starting it was like almost exactly the same. Like, we both were like missing something that we wished we had after having our second pregnancy, and basically just wanted to help. Like, it really comes from a place of service.
And I really love some of the people that I've met. I just feel like even if you haven't met people physically, it's like you've known each other for a while, and you can build great relationships. And obviously there can be negative things to social media and stuff like that, but there are also great positives. So I hope it helps people like yours.
Do you feel, because I know for me, like, and I think you and I talked about this on the call, but like, I feel like I have really good infertility radar. Do you feel like you have that too? Like, I'll be like at something for whether it's for my children or whether it's not, whether it's just like another event that's not hilariously infertile based, like that's like teaching based, or at like something with like my husband and lawyers or whatever it is. And I'll be like, they went through infertility. I don't know, like I can just tell,
Yes.
and like
Yes.
you had to kind of like sneak around. So oftentimes I'll like share my thing first and see if that opens anyone up, and people will be like, "Oh, so you're a teacher? You teach dual language?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do. I also have this side hustle also called Hilariously Infertile because I'm infertile," and then it like gets them opening up about their stuff. But I'm like, I knew it, and like my
Has it? Yeah, it froze. It's
someone tried
back.
calling me. My horseback riding teacher tried calling me.
Totally get that.
So
Yes. When I tell people about what
have
I
you ever
do
found that?
now, when I tell people what I do now, then they say, "Oh wow, actually we had this, and this," and it breaks the ice.
I totally agree. Do you, and this is one of my questions because you said that, you know, when people say things to you about having twins and about all this stuff, that it's really misses the mark, you know, whenever, and this is something, this is, I guess, a bad habit. And you can tell me as a mom of twins
Sorry,
through
Karen, I just
IVF.
got to get some water.
Okay, okay, go.
Okay, 2 seconds. Sorry.
No, take your time. Sorry, guys. My riding teacher just called me. I don't know if he's canceling riding or if he's not. I'm supposed to go horseback riding like in an hour. I'm curious what he's saying. Did you do any training or certification to be a fertility coach? If that's to me, no. My only training is just being inappropriate and funny. But I don't know about Eloise. And I love this. When I was referred to the ultrasound wand as Wanda, I'm just reading some of these comments. They're really funny. It says, when I referred to the ultrasound wand as Wanda during my 8-week ultrasound, after 8 years of infertility, the tech laughed when I told her to check out Hilariously Infertile on Instagram. Thank you so much for that.
Amazing. I think someone asked if I'm a coach. I'm not a fertility coach at all.
Yeah.
I've created a website which gives people community and amazing resources from around the world, holistic resources. So go to fertilityhelphub.com and you can check out all of the different partners and clinics and providers and you name it. And I do a weekly newsletter which has all of those amazingly insightful community stories, but also expert content so people can find out more about what covers an array of topics. So just to answer that question, I'm not a fertility coach.
I know I'm not either, but I feel like once you've been through it, it's like, what other certification do I need? You know?
Yes.
I mean, it's actually maybe like being an actual motivational speaker. So my question I was going to ask you about the twins is, I know when I see fraternal twins nowadays, I'll ask the parents and I'll say, do twins run in your family? And if they say no, then I'll be like, oh, and then I'll go into talking about my infertility just to see, because sometimes people don't like, they don't want to almost admit that the twins were IVF twins. I'm like, I went through IVF for my daughter, and then I just leave it open ended.
Totally, 100%. So I find that my husband is very funny and he's very dry, and he'll just say, "Oh no, they're not mine," or "They're donor conceived." Mm-hmm. And he'll just say it so straight. People don't know how to react, whether to laugh. When he says that, he means not biologically.
Right,
and it makes it sound like I've had an affair or something.
Yeah.
He only says that if someone really, really pushes about something. But yeah, definitely. People ask if twins run in the family. They ask my family all the time that. And I think at first my parents didn't really know. They said, is it okay to say you had IVF? Or they just say, no, they don't. And then that just ends the conversation. Right. I said, yeah, you can say we had treatment. There's nothing to hide. We're not ashamed of it.
Yeah. Okay, so it says, where in the UK would you recommend ordering Innocent?
Yeah.
What is that?
It's like a supplement. Holland and Barrett, but I have to take 8 minutes. So I went to Planet Organic a lot for my supplements, so you could try there. If not, go to fertilityhelphub.com and there's actually a new article all about that powder from one of the nutritionists I work with, so she could tell you.
That's awesome. All right, well, I'm gonna let you go.
Yes, I'm so sorry for the coughing. It's so embarrassing.
Please, I've got Brady barking, construction above me. My horseback riding teacher is calling me, so don't even worry about it. This is real life, and this is what it is.
Exactly.
So definitely check out fertilityhelphub.com and Hilariously Infertile. Definitely follow on Instagram and Facebook. And you can check out other Instagram lives that we have going on. My book, Eloise's new and global initiative, all of it is amazing, and it's out there for you guys to help you guys through this time. So thank you so much, Eloise, for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Lovely to chat. Bye,
it was
everyone.
so great talking to you. Have a great day. Feel better.
You too. Thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.
Bye.